The future of trade between the United States and Africa is in limbo right now. It is unclear what would become of trade relationship between the US and Africa following a Supreme Court decision that is set to be announced later this year. I'll break all this down for you in a bit. My name is Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics and trade-related issues from the perspective of an African. So if that's something you are interested in, subscribe to this channel. Now, let's get right into it. Anyway, so usually my energy level is high, but today I'm a bit mellow because I ran half a marathon. Yeah, I jogged for about 12 kilometers, 7.6 miles, right? And that is almost half a marathon. And so my energy level is low right now, but I still want to have this conversation about tariffs and how they will affect Africa. So let's do this. Anyway, on November 4th, 2025, the Supreme Court of the US heard two separate cases related to the tariff President Trump put on the whole world in April 2025. If you don't remember, in April 2025, President Trump announced what he called Liberation Day and said the world has been taking advantage of the US in trade matters. So he was announcing tariff to reset balance in the world. And let me say this before moving on. I think that the tariff announcement by Trump is the laziest and worst decision President Trump has ever taken as president. I'll explain why. International trade usually depends on people trusting that you have a system, right? The US financial market for decades has been the most reliable financial market in the world because the US government is known to not take economic decisions drastically. So if the US will take decisions that has to do with finance, economics, and trade, it usually goes through Congress, which is a lengthy process. So it gives investors time to think and plan. So if you knew that Congress is going to announce a law on tariffs and the law will pass on September 5th, and the president will sign it on September 8th, and it will go into effect on October 9th. Usually that's how laws work. When they are written, they go into effect as a specific date, right? So like they'll go into effect on September 8th. You would make decisions or plan your life to make sure that by the time the law go into effect, you are aligned with the law. But the way Trump announced the tariff, it didn't give anybody else in the world chance to plan. That is lazy because Trump could have used Congress. So Trump has majority in Congress, right? And usually to pass a law in the US, in the Senate, which is the upper part of Congress, you need 60 votes to pass, right? But there's something called budget reconciliation, where if the law has to do with the tax or finance situation of the US, you can use a simple majority to pass it, right? And so the tariff, I believe, if President Trump wanted to pass it through Congress, he could have used budget reconciliation to pass it. Biden used budget reconciliation to pass a whole new climate change related laws, right? It's just about procedure and process. So by not going through the procedure and process, which is hard work, Trump was being lazy. And by being lazy, he put in place a decision that has upsetted the whole world's economic system. That is what I think is the worst decision he has ever taken as president. I don't really care too much about his views on other domestic issues. He's the president of the United States. He has the right to do anything within the confines of the law, right? But when he takes a decision that affects every country in the world without going through a process that will give the world the chance to prepare for him, yo, that is the worst. So moving forward, the Supreme Court is expected to overturn the tariff Trump put on the world in April. And the reason is simple. Trump used a law called IEEPA, International Economic Emergency Powers Act. That was passed in 1977. And he said the way US is being treated in relation to trade is an emergency. That is why he's using emergency powers, right? And it looks like the Supreme Court of the US is going to say, no, 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 no. That power is, you are using too much of it. And so if the US Supreme Court overturns the laws or the executive power Trump used to put tariff on the whole world, this is what is going to happen. It's going to put the future of trade between Africa specifically and the US in limbo. I'll explain why. From 2000, Africa and the US have dealt with each other under a law known as AGOA. AGOA is Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. Bill Clinton signed it to law, and Obama renewed, and Bush renewed it, Obama renewed it, and it was supposed to expire on September 30th, 2025, which is a few months ago or a couple of months ago. But even before he expired, President Trump announced his tariff, which effectively killed AGOA. But now that the tariff is also supposed to overturn, what is the trade regime governing Africa now? If you're interested in knowing more about AGOA, I have a video I did. I think I'll put it up here about AGOA if you are interested in knowing like in details about it. But AGOA has expired. Tariff will be overturned. In order to trade with other countries, you need a policy that governs it. What will be the policy? That is all what I mean by it will be in limbo. So, from what I understand, the president of Ghana announced that African leaders are negotiating with Trump to renew AGOA. And whether or not Trump renews AGOA, I don't think it will happen this year. Because currently, the government is shut down. The US government is shut down. If the US government is open, actually, yes, the US government got shut down in the middle of the same day AGOA expired. I remember doing that video. AGOA expired the same day the US government was shut down. And so if the US government opens back up, they are going to be focused on domestic stuff, which means that the renewal of AGOA would have to wait till maybe next year because it had to go through Congress and all that. My point is this. If you're somebody in Ghana who does business with the US, maybe you export stuff to the US, maybe you might want to wait till February, March, April before doing some work. Unless, of course, what you are exporting is an emergency, something you need to do. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And because I've been trying to get some stuff, go into exports, right? Import stuff from Ghana and sell it in the US. But because of how volatile and, volatile the trade regime is with Trump, it is really, really hard to plan. I think about it this way. It's like when you have a date with a girl, you guys have set the date for September 30th. And you know that September 30th, the date will happen. You talk to her on September 29th. She said she's she's happy to meet you, blah, blah, blah. On the afternoon of September 30th, she was still cool with you, like, oh, I can't wait to see you this evening. And then 2 minutes to when the date time is up, she texts you that I can't make it, I have some emergency. That is what Trump did with the tariffs. He announced the tariffs without giving people, what's the name, prior notice. So, in the scenario with the girl, if the girl had told you maybe she can't make it on the 29th, maybe you have different plans, you can. But now she's put you in a spot where there's very little you can do, That is what Trump did. That is why I believe that the tariff, the way President Trump announced it, is the laziest and worst decision he's ever taken as president. And now that the Supreme Court is about to overturn the tariff and AGOA has expired, the future of trade with the US is Anyway, my name is Enebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. I'll talk to you later.